So, why is it then that a man needs to be respected? And I wanted to, as I mentioned, go into an area that for some people it may be like, okay, then, create some questions or, but anyway, I'm going to go there. And that is because God created that in men, in the male species, that we ought to be respected. As a matter of fact, the Bible says for about this whole issue. It says, wives, respect your husbands, right? So God has, for a reason, He said, for you to have a happier home, a happier marriage, you ought to give your man, your husband, what he needs, and that is respect. Now, I've heard sometimes a wife would say, he doesn't deserve it. It's as if he has to earn respect. And that's where things begin to break down even more because she believes that for him to get that from her. But there's no way that God says, for you as a wife to determine whether or not you respect him based upon what he deserves or not. It simply says that is what he needs. But what happened is the thing that drives him. When he feels respected, like I described the definition I gave you, a feeling of deep admiration for someone, when your husband feels that deep admiration from you, that you are um, celebrating him, that he means what he does means something, he will want to do more. He will want to go to the ends of the earth for you because you're doing something that truly within him is what he thrives on. It's what causes him to want to do, as I mentioned, more and more and more. So that's why God says for you as a wife to respect your husband. Of course, God also gave the man his um, marching orders as well. The marching order for men, for a husband, God said for you to love your wife as you would love your own body. So God calls him to do something very equal that's not as easy for him to do, right? So both sides are called to do something that sometimes is going to require work. Because again, for you as a husband, your wife should not be deserving of like she has to do something to get your love. No, it ought to be given to her because it's what makes her tick, is what causes her to want to do the things that truly you are looking for from her. But as we're talking about here, what the man needs, and the whole conversation is around that your husband doesn't need your love. He wants your love. What he needs from you is a respect, because that's what gets him going when he is celebrated for his abilities and his achievements and how he's a protector and a provider. I mean, there's nothing more that he needs than that above everything else that you do. So it's a man thing. It's what he needs from you. So when you're doing the love thing, he wants that. It's great. But don't forget, don't in how get this mixed up that that's enough. What he wants, what he needs is your respect, right? Speak to him respectfully, honor him, celebrate him like I just before. Now I know that you say, well, what about me? What I yes, I mentioned before because I'm talking about husbands here, right? I don't want to kind of convolute the conversation. I do know that you want, I mean, you need his love for you to be a priority, for you to be his number one, the person he adheres to and so on. And I get it, and you need that, right? But because I'm speaking here mainly about what your husband really needs more than your love, and that's respect. And here's what I find where some as a wife it's a struggle because you feel like, why should I have to respect him? And you hear that so much that you're like even pushing back because you're even pushing back against the that narrative that you are rebelling against. I don't have to respect anybody. And maybe you grew up in a place where a home where respect was not taught, where it was not elevated. In some homes I find, when I work with parents and children and they're saying, he or she is so disrespectful. I said, well, does he or she know what respect is? Have you outlined that? Have you created consequences for disrespect in your home? And so some people are raised without this idea of respect, and it's hard for them to give it. And so I'm suggesting, if you are one of those persons that you're struggling with giving your husband respect, I can guarantee you're not going to have a happier home. Can give him everything else, and you wonder, why is he seemingly looking for, staying at work later, not coming home as you would like him to, looking for every opportunity to be away from the home, and you wonder why. I can tell you, one of the reasons is because he doesn't feel respected in his home, right? He gets that, especially if has a title or a position at work, and people respect him at work, and it's what drives him, and stroke his ego, and he's getting that at work. Where do you think he's going to go more? Where he doesn't get it, or where he gets it? Now, I'm not making an excuse for him. It's just what it is. He's going to go where he gets the respect. And so if you want home to be the place that's happier home, right? And a happier marriage, you want it to really double down on this, or work, your way into where you truly respect your husband, right? When he knows that you believe in him and supports him, he is going to rise up and be the person that you want him to be. So as we're kind of winding down here at this end of this episode, I want to challenge you to truly think about this, reflect upon this, and ask the question: Is are you respecting him as you should, or are you holding back respect because you think he needs to earn it, or he doesn't deserve it? Well, is it any wonder that you might not be having as happier a home or as happier a marriage as you would really like? This is one of the reasons. And I want to tell you, as a man, as a husband myself, so I'm speaking to you from a man's position, what we want above everything else is to know that our wife and our children respect us. We truly, really, it means the world to us. We need that. We need that. And any place we find that is not happening, something breaks for us. Something creates a wedge in our relationship with those who are being disrespectful. And so let me challenge you then to think about what I'm saying. And even though something may grate at you, or may like, I can't believe you're telling me to, I know it is something that we have problems with, especially when we don't feel like a person is deserving of or earns it. But God says, not because he earns it or deserves it, he says he needs that from you. And that's why he said a wife ought to respect her husband, and a husband ought to love his wife, because that is what you need. Love from him. You want respect as well. Don't get me wrong. You want that. And who doesn't? But what you truly need is his love. He wants you to love him. And we all want people to love us. But what he needs most from you is respect. Hey, think about that. And I'd love to hear your thoughts and see if if this resonates, if you're on the same page with me on this, or otherwise. I'd love to hear from you either way. But also, I mentioned before that I have something for you, just because you've listened all the way to the end and kind of, take some deep breath and so on. So don't miss what's coming up, as the announcer will let you know how you can get that gift that I promised you at the beginning. So stay tuned and hear how to get that special gift.